And let's get
Like now.
like no, we haven't had any problems at all. I think this is. I don't know what basis number this is, but it's on my picture. Elana Freeland, welcome to the Basis Project. It's absolutely fantastic to see you finally, and we won't refer to any previous conversations we've had some moments ago, as we say. I got a book of yours, and it's really, really great books. These books that you've been doing, and the reason why this is music to my ears is I've been doing the Basis Project since 1994, and it's about transhumanization and not necessarily aliens. It's about making us into something else under the control by some other something else. And a lot of the stuff that you have in your books, you are able to articulate to a much wider audience. And I've had people actually read sections of your book to me about things, and it's music to my ears because I can read things and see things, but maybe they're hidden away on an interview I've been doing. I've started this in 1984, where the British found out, somebody found out, this guy's father found that the Germans had a special lab and they were making strange looking humans, and they had other things going on without going too far in it. But basically, if anybody saw them walking down the street, we'd think they were an alien. And maybe they were cross transmutating humans into aliens. And maybe that's their plan right now. So, what got you into this business? And tell us all about your books. I know you got a presentation to give us. So, set the scene, Elena. And who are you? And why should we listen to a word you say?
'Cause it doesn't count that I've been at this for almost 20 years, right?
Well, tell us all about it.
The first um, the first thing I usually talk about is how I met Clifford Carnicom, the independent scientist who has done the lion's share of work on this problem of geoengineering since the it would be 1999. I met him in approximately 2005 at a breakfast. Uh, Given that I like to put my nose into any technology to figure out what's going on today, I feel that when you incarnate on planet Earth as a human being, that one of your major jobs eventually is to figure out why you're here and why this time, why this particular technological time. You may think you're a perennial English major and think that poetry is why you're here. And it could be one of the reasons you're here. But if you're living in a technological era whereby you're taking advantage of all sorts of fast movie downloads and cool technology like what we're speaking on right now, that you need to learn something about it. Maybe not everything, just something, so you understand what its power source is, how the power is being manipulated, possibly, particularly if you have headaches and nausea and things happening to you out of nowhere. Those reasons, because we are using the air now as a means of communication. So that's what happened to me. I started talking with Clifford, and he began to tell me what he was finding. He was doing all sorts of experiments with the atmosphere and figured out with his, for example, with a Van de Graaff generator, figured out that the atmosphere was being changed. Well, it wasn't just being changed by nature, it was being changed by human beings somewhere. That was his assumption. So he began to collect detritus that was coming from jets in the upper atmosphere over northern New Mexico where he lived, and then he would put it under the microscope perhaps, or add a solution in order to see what the reaction was. He could tell already that what we used to call contrails were not any more contrails in general. They were chemical trails because they had a chemical signature. And so he began with the atmosphere, but eventually found biological materials in what was coming down. And that's what led him to examine what that was. He found erythrocytes, he found red blood cells, he found pieces of meat coming down, can't figure out what it was from. And eventually he realized that there was geoengineering going on. In other words, geo meaning earth, engineering, yes. Bioengineering was also going on, and it was coming down with chemicals and particles that were coming from the jet. It looked like it was coming from the backs of the jets, but eventually he discovered it was actually coming from the wings as well. So the first step of a scientist is doubt and observation, and then the second step is a hypothesis that there was something possibly military going on because a lot of these jets, he would see like C-130s and that sort of thing. But it was also passenger jets. It seemed to be coming out of passenger jets. How could he tell the difference between the contrail and the chemtrail? Well, the contrail is a water vapor and ice crystals primarily, and it lasts maybe 30 seconds, maybe a minute at the very most. But these chemical signatures coming out of the aft of the jets and out of wing portals that seem to be coming from the wings were actually different from anything, it was chemicals, and he detected barium, strontium, aluminum, the usual suspects that we all have heard somebody talk about in the last 20 years, those of us who are old enough. And he was experimenting with them, and then he discovered that there was something in the biologicals that was, when he put it under the slide with a speck of dust of blood from his body, that it was sucking the iron out of his red blood cells. So that's kind of where I came in and sort of woke up. I wasn't at that point that interested in technology of these jets and the jet engines and all that. I had to study all that. But I was very captured by the biological inference that there was something had been changed in the biology so that there was some entity that was sucking the iron out of people's red blood cells. So we collected saliva from people and examined it. And yes, there were definite fibers in there, filaments that had, he finally figured out how to chemically open the fibers, and he therein saw different organs, what he assumed were organs. And this was the famous Morgellons. Now, the term Morgellons is completely, it's kind of like that term the CIA really likes, the conspiracy theory. It was inappropriate because uh, this was not the 17th century disease of the skin that people had that long ago, but they plucked that out of history. And because you would eventually, if you got this into your system, like by breathing it, because these filaments are very tiny, they're nanoscale. Nano is 1 billionth of a meter. They were able to, he was able to take that and break it open chemically and begin to examine the organs that he found in that. I first wrote about that in the very first book I wrote in 2014, Chemtrails, HARP, and the Full Spectrum Dominance of Planet Earth. So from that point on, uh, he would take these organs and figure out where they were at in the basically the three domains we now call them. There used to be, we used to call them kingdoms, but they are now domains. And he figured out that all three domains were involved in what was inside these fibers. These were the same fibers that were being found, by the way. I mean, we both know Harald Kautz. Harald was one of his first jobs when he was studying these chemical trails was in Europe, where he was collecting fibers and filaments from like spider webs, quote unquote. They weren't really spider webs, but they had a web stickiness to them, very similar. And he too was finding that these fibers uh, were the same thing in a sense as the Morgellons. And that was really the beginning of Clifford, yes, still concentrating on what was going on with the atmosphere. And, you know, I want to cover some of that and I'll start out with, as long as I'm talking and not showing pictures, let me talk about that, those fibers, because that was really the very first thing that happened. Uh, and led to Clifford to see that not only was the atmosphere being changed by these chemicals and nanoparticles, which is also what he found, because that was pretty early in the game. Nanoparticles, we've had nanotechnology that's being made in factories and is in just about everything you can possibly think of that's kept technical now since the 70s. But we didn't know it. It was all kept very hush hush because truthfully, it was national security. And of course, the military is always interested in anything that bespeaks weaponizing. And the nanotech was already being used with the idea in mind uh, of a weapon to affect human beings, maybe not kill them, but infect them with various nanotechnology means in order to weaken the enemy. And of course, in America, they were experimenting on Americans, but quietly. So Americans didn't really know that. And so one of the things that we should know, and I always repeat this, you may wonder how they can have all these laws about not doing anything weaponized against human beings, and yet this chemtrails program that I write about, Project Cloverleaf, that's the one that I chose to write about, is they're constantly dropping things from the sky. It could be airplanes. It could be said to be weather modification, but it really is something else. But you're going to have to collect it. You're going to have to separate it from other pollutive agents, and you're going to have to uh, do a whole bunch of experimentation that probably you're not going to have the money for because most of the money for this kind of experimentation belongs to the military. So they depend on what is called 50 U.S. Code 1520A in America, restrictions on use of human subjects for testing of chemical or biological agents. Well, it sounds really good on paper because it sounds like you can't test things on people without their consent. But once you begin to read down a little bit, you see that there are a few exceptions. And one of the exceptions is any peaceful purpose that is related to a medical, comma, therapeutic, comma, pharmaceutical, comma, agricultural, comma, industrial, comma, or research activity. Oh, that's a small category. It includes just about everything that we use technology for. And that is a peaceful purpose. You're just looking, it's just research. And that's why they called HARP, the famous acronym for the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Project, up in Gakona, Alaska, the ionospheric heater up there that's so powerful, so powerful. Uh, they called it a research project. They knew it was a weapon system, but of course, you can't talk about that in America because we have the National Security Act of 1947. Everything goes into private quarters when you begin to talk about anything that has to do with national security. So nobody knew about HARP for a long time until Nick Begich and Gene Manning wrote Angels Don't Play This Harp in 1994. That was the first book I read on it. And by the time I met Clifford, I had already gone through the book a couple of times and was quite familiar with how the ionospheric heaters worked according to what Nick had to say. So, some of this past that now in America anyway, and recently the UK has begun to be more public about geoengineering and talking about uh, running experiments with the sun. That same thing is going on here. There's been absolute silence for 2 decades about this program and the harm it's doing to people's health. But it's all been kept very quiet. I learned several years ago, it wasn't in the 90s, I think it was the early 2000s, that the EU-US Open Skies Agreement requires that NATO nations designate 15% of their budgets for chemical trails. So that's been going on a long time since the Open Skies Agreement in the 90s. And every NATO member, if you are to be a NATO member, you must sign on the dotted line to give 15% of your national income to feed the particulates that are being dropped from the sky. What is the purpose of those? Um, they they have to do with transmissions of information, definitely, because if you just had a vacuum up in the sky and you didn't have particulates, you would not be able to do really solid communiques. And they certainly knew because they are involved in several programs, one being the most famous and strange one. I want to read the top of that to you. Um, the most famous part is that it is the part where they're trying to get an ability to go beyond the Earth's atmosphere, which they have not really done, is how I see it. I know there are stories of various important scientists at NASA uh, who have claimed that we have done this, that, and the other, including the moonshot in '69. But the truth is that the radiation belts around the Earth are a deterrent to getting human beings as human beings are now beyond the radiation. They would have to wear lead-lined suits, and that is not being done. It's too heavy. It wouldn't work. So that is one of the reasons for this great transhuman thrust that we are undergoing now. And when Clifford and I started, I don't think we really thought about transhumanism. Uh, we definitely thought about people's health and thought about how the military didn't care about it. But once we discovered certain things about the Morgellons, which was actually the first synthetic biology species that he realized before me, of course, that was synthetic and was dependent, seemed to be dependent upon iron coming from human blood. Uh, we realized that this looked like an assault on humanity and was not simply using people as experimental subjects, but actually had an agenda for undermining human beings. And certainly, with all the collection I had done for a series of books that don't have anything to do with geoengineering, it's called Sub Rosa America. It's four books that are all one story that I wrote. It's in a fictional format, but it's pretty much the history, the sub rosa history, sub rosa meaning hidden, history of the United States. Therein, I very much reveal many of the technologies were really for uh, undermining first the immune system of the human being, and then eventually replacing the human being, this Homo sapiens, with another model of humanity that would easily be able to get through the Van Allen belts and survive in space and be able to talk to aliens or entities, AIs that had to speak with them, so that early on became a possibility. Not to say that it was proven. Of course, scientists like Clifford are very picky about not being ascribed uh, ideas that they have not really experimented with. But we after the saliva and seeing the fibers, the same sort of fibers that were agriculturally being found, uh, we went on to blood and collecting small amounts of blood from people in order to look at it under the microscope. And the microscope was not that powerful. But as I show in my slideshow, if I get that far, uh, I've been a member of a group in coming out of Australia of microscopists, and we've been looking at live blood for 2 years now, maybe three, and seeing what is in the blood, which really should not be there. It's not a matter of your blood is lapping up environmental things. It's again, and most people don't know this, Miles. There are This is a two-pronged assault. I eventually realized after, I've written 5 books on geoengineering, and the last two are primarily on geoengineering and its impact on the synthetic biology that is going on now. That's taking the place of our interior of our bodies, and this is all being done as I speak. And some of it has been able that we've been able to find it in the blood by extremely excellent microscopes that are very expensive that can get down to the nitty gritty of the what I call the tiny world, where we're having to really look at microbes now and bacteria. So this shift from what would be called maybe by a biologist an epigenetic approach of the one prong coming from space and using air to aerosols to bring down onto the earth. And given that we all breathe from the same envelope of air on the entire planet with lots of different winds and eddies of air going through the planet, we all now are imbibing what is being dropped according to these trails. And the trails are the chemicals provided in the trails, needless to say, are provided by Big Pharma. And we just recently had a 4 to 5 year uh, interaction with Big Pharma in the inoculations that happened, the CV-19. These inoculations are the other prong. So you have the one coming, that's 20 years, all the way back to Monsanto and the beginning of GMO foods, genetically modified foods, which was really in the 30s. I thought it was in the 60s. And I found out no, we've had GMO fields since the 30s, and that was under Monsanto, which now belongs to Bayer. And really, it's really extraordinary that I think Monsanto recently is has been suing uh, the regarding the chemtrails. They have admitted that they are what is in the chemtrails is also in the spraying done for GMO foods and the patents that Monsanto originated many years ago. So there's already a correlation, but because it was not talked about, geoengineering was not talked about, certainly this aspect of the serums that people were vaccinated with having all manner of strange items in it, that these photographs, and there is a book that has just come out, and I want you to know about it, is this by one of the microscopists in the group. It's called Nano Microscopy Investigations. And the pictures in the book are extraordinary. And they have captions so that you know primarily what it is thought of as in the picture. And it's
What's the
phenomenal.
publisher? Where would they get that?
They would get that at unhackable animal.com. Unhackable. And they the author has,
And what's an author's name, just to give it to
well,
Devise's books?
she wants to be called the unhackable animal. That's what she wants to be called. But she is one of about a dozen, maybe going on 2 dozen people who have their photographs in this book in order for you to see what the blood is now beset by. You know, it's very quietly done, and some of them are unbelievable. Many crystals, uh, crystals, of course, being very good for communications. Transformation going on, self-assembly of synthetic biological creatures, and I mean, I think that their end goal for the transhuman hybrids, that would be us, who are human, but because it's much more than just a vaccine program of 4 years. They have the entire program of the what's been going on in the sky
If you
now
could
for.
hold this a little bit higher, but I'm just missing the very bottom. Great, that's excellent. And while we're talking about books, there's this one, which is the Pfizer papers by with Naomi Wolf. The stuff on that is a nightmare. Lots of
Yes,
photographs of what we're talking about here. Okay.
great, great, Mouse. So, at last, my most recent book is this one, which is out by Inner Traditions. And now I have submitted the fifth manuscript. And I promise you, I will not write another book on geoengineering, though Clifford Carnicom and I are doing a biographical book of his to tell the story of what it's like to be completely silenced for 20 years, going on 30, so that people think only of climate change. The other cover story, uh, what's that one that has to do with global warming
The
and
CO2
how
thing. Yeah.
the CO2 thing, all of it.
This is an
Uh,
enemy of organic life. And while we're talking
he,
about that, I have a completely independent source
yeah,
that in
yeah.
Britain they were developing programmable generated life forms for, quote, the lunar base. That's here in Britain. And that's years ago,
Years ago.
decades ago.
Exactly. I think that's the main thing, is to see how powerful it is. In America, I can speak for you have the Official Secrets Act. We have the National Security Act of 1947, the year I was born in, actually. And that is the key to understanding how they can keep this silent all these years. People think, oh, you can't keep a you can't keep a secret like that. Oh, yes, you can. With disinformation, with lies, subterfuge, cover stories, CIA shenanigans, deaths, uh, uh, all kinds of things that have happened in these years to make sure that Americans who are paying for a lot of this having to do with the HARP technology, so they don't know what they're paying for, that it's actually a weapon system. So there were some people I just wanted to. I know you probably, Miles, knew these people. Rosalind Peterson, she was one. She was a former crop inspector for USDA. She knew about this. That was back in 2007. She was invited by the UN to speak about the fact that the soil was being depleted, and so that was the first was the geographic that was going on.
Just on the
Uh,
UK side, there's a guy called Graham Harvey. He published several books. He was an author, of a scriptwriter for a BBC soap opera. He explained that they were demineralizing since the war, or
yeah.
they were deliberately demineralizing the food baskets of the world.
Yes, yes. So the agriculture and the geographic were the first. Then Michael J. Murphy did three films. What in the world are they spraying in 2010? Why in the world are they spraying in 2012? And then his third film was unfinished because he was killed before he could finish it. And that one was called An Unconventional Shade of Gray. And that one, Michael died on July 22, 2020. And the film has been brought out. I sent a copy. I was able to get a copy. It was almost finished. It lacked the captions, the subtitles that it needed. But I sent it to Greece, and they did a full public showing there. It's the only one I know of that has ever happened for that third film. And the third film is very good for what's there.
Well, we just
Everything
lost
is there.
another brilliant woman called Dusky Edwards. She got married, and she knew all about a lot of what was in these bases here in England. And she had her wedding 10 days ago. And just as the wedding finished and the formalities happened, she had a stroke and died 36 hours later.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's just
Gosh.
happened here. Yeah.
Well, and it's like if you can't, the way we've dealt with it so far, if you can't prove it in a court of law, and we all, at least in America, you can't really trust many courts of law,
Shocking.
uh, then you're silent about these things, these deaths that are they're very suspicious. And that's one of the things that I'm hoping to help with. I have a huge file on just the geoengineering people who've been offed, and I want to be able to publish that under some form, possibly get a little bit into Clifford's book because Clifford certainly has been assaulted many times. So Billy Hayes was someone that helped me to write that book you held up, Under an Ionized Sky. Without Billy, I wouldn't have been able to write that book as well as I did because he explained to me what the space fence was, and that's a Lockheed Martin term. And he explained how they were using all these different types of technologies, including wind farms, including green energy,
Oh,
in
the
order
green
to
energy is one of the biggest anti-human things there were, is.
exactly, exactly. And that's Billy was he was an MK Ultra survivor. He had been in MK Ultra since he was 8 years old. His father was CIA, and he had been trained on programmed under MK Ultra to understand electromagnetics. And he was team leader for many of the 240 military units around the Earth when they were building HARP-like ionospheric heaters. So Billy was invaluable to me. It got to where we were doing radio interviews a lot, but it got to where they were giving him grand mal seizures during the interviews, and so I stopped doing them with Billy because it was actually scaring the radio programmers. And Billy and I were close, you know. I miss him. Sasha Latipova recently and Catherine Watt are two wonderful ladies who have gone through legal documents and proven that the American military is in the business of vaccines as well. Have gone through masses of documents to expose the role of the U.S. military in the COVID-19 debacle, including Operation Warp Speed. So that gives you an idea of some of the people back then. Regarding the fibers, we had a marvelous chemist named Mike Castle, and he was able to uh, do many tests on the fibers being found in the fields and the fibers being found in the detritus coming down from the jets and the Morgellons people. What was in their blood? It was all these fibers with these different organs in them. And Mike, he said here, let's see, Michael Castle has specialized in environmental investigations and research of American, Canadian, and global air contamination operations, frequently referred to as chemtrails, lines in the sky, aerosol, heavy metals, particulates, other class poisons, toxins, etc. So this was back in the early 2000s. This was from 2003. So, you know, this we have been trying to be heard for all these years, and it's a matter of dealing with the National Security Act in America and the Official Secret Act, I would assume, in Britain. So, if I could start the just whip through the slide presentation. What do you think, Miles?
Yeah, but you got all the time in the world. It's all up to you.
Okay. So let's do that. And we may even finish because Miles is giving me all the time in the world. Let's see now. What
Yeah,
do
we
I do?
grab it while we can.
Well, that's the key. So I go to share
Yeah,
and I get this going and I share. All
brilliant.
right.
Great. So now you
So
just go on to play and it should be full screen.
oh, play. Yes. Okay. Play full screen. So these are the books I've written. Continue to share.
Yeah.
Mhm. Um, to the in the middle is the chemtrails harp and the full spectrum. That's the 2014 book. That's a wonderful book. You may think it's been dated, but pretty much the elementary level of the harp program is in this. And this is just around the time, 1 year later, than the uh, than the harp geoengineers captured the ionosphere, and they pretty much controlled the ionosphere. And when I say pretty much, I mean pretty much, like 80%. And that makes it. This is what makes the whole HARP system a tremendous weapon system. Then the second book I did, to the right, Under an Ionized Sky from Chemtrails to Space Fence Lockdown. Yeah, that's what that is. The space fence now, I would say, this is my own thinking, when President Trump announced, sort of played a Freemason scene of announcing the Stargate AI with the three billionaires from Silicon Valley to his left. I see that as being the next phase, it and its data centers that will be collecting masses and masses and masses of data, as being the next term for the space fence lockdown. And that's I write about that definitely in the book with the purple cover that I showed you. And then that was in 2018. And then the next book, Geoengineered Transhumanism, I did that one in 2021. I did it myself, paid for it myself, self-published it because I had so many color pictures in it that I knew that it would cost way too much for people, and I had a good deal for doing that. So I did that, and I own the copyright for that one book. I don't own any of the other copyrights. And then the next book was just published a year ago, last February, the Geoengineered Transhuman, published by Intertraditions, and they will be publishing the book I just finished about a month and a half ago, and I submitted to for the editing process at Intertraditions, entitled "Remaining Human: Standing Up to the Transhuman Nanomachine Takeover of Homo Sapiens." And that book will look thoroughly at the military biomedical security complex. That's my new term for military industrial complex. This one goes into much more detail. The military biomedical security complex. Nano and synbio, synthetic biology, hive mind, that we now all share, whether we wished it or not. The
I'd like you to
geomag,
talk about that, because that's
yeah,
very, very apparent.
yes, the geomagnetic grid, which is under our feet. And again, we have the as above, so below motif happening here of the secret societies, in my opinion, of being controlled from space by all sorts of things that are now up there, and particularly the satellites that are radiating us daily, uh, being coupled with the grid under our feet. And then Stargate I go into that, and again, I'm telling you that's a very important and has to do with what Miles would like to hear more about, and secret society. So all of that is in this Remaining Human book, and I write it in a particularly wonderful style of narrative. I try to. I mean, it's got a lot of footnotes. Yeah, you can't get around footnotes because there may be people out there who want to check what I'm saying, and I don't mind that at all. But mainly I do it as a narrative because I am committed to remaining human. And I've already been tested once, whereby I avoided being going to a hospital when I was losing blood, because I don't trust hospitals. I mean, I don't trust Western medicine at all. I haven't been to a Western medical doctor since I was 13, and I'm 78 now. So now we go on from here. There's that. I showed you that. This is the companion volume of Remaining Human. You really need both books, I think. In this one, Geoengineered Transhuman, I'm still talking a lot about the geoengineering, but primarily as it relates to the dissemination of synthetic biology. And I think to get the flow of how this stuff works, I have found that just reading has helped me immensely to understand how all of this works. Given that, I don't think the CIA or NASA are going to give us an option to go into the national security chambers to see what's been taken out. Geoengineering, symbioengineering, just my term. Question of our time: what does it mean to be human? And this is something that I definitely go into in Remaining Human. This is what I was stumbling around trying to remember the name of earlier. This is the Kardashev scale, and this is what we have been committed to, not since Kennedy was talking to Khrushchev about sharing a space, the hope to go into space. That flopped and ended in Kennedy's assassination. But the Kardashev scale, and Kardashev was an astrophysicist of the Russians of uh, back when they were not Russians and they were Soviets for a while. And this entails three things you can count on. They are experimenting on nonstop in our atmosphere. The Kardashev scale, type 1, full spectrum dominance over planet Earth. That's what's going on now, and that includes us. Full spectrum dominance over us as well, if you're wondering why all this change. Type 2, full spectrum dominance over the sun. Certainly, the last solar eclipse was geoengineered. It was not a natural eclipse. They are capable, yes, they are capable of doing that. That is not a problem. They also have a second sun up there. You may one day see a double sun. The other one is made of LED lights and is being used for a variety of purposes. And then type 3, full spectrum dominance over the galaxy. And that remains to be seen because if all they can get is AI beyond this atmosphere, then I don't call that um, a success. But we will see. There's Nick's book, Nick and Gene Manning. Great book, good footnotes. And that was the first time I had a military chopper over my house. Was when I was reading that book in 1995 and had gone to a substitute teaching job at a local high school that had a lot of military kids at, and probably some military spouses as teachers. But I definitely I came to their attention that year. This is just synthetic biology, just to give you an idea of where it's going. Synthetic organisms and living machines, that's what they want. So synthetic biology is not just a little more like a silicon limb or some other titanium hip. No, we're talking about way more than that. Uh, Real life forms that are being run by electromagnetics, and the electromagnetics of choice is 5G, 6G, and soon 7G. Yes, 6G is up and running in America. Okay, so that just gives you one
It's certainly
small.
running in the UK 6G, and I think it's designed for space communication.
It's that, and 7G will be primarily for the tiny world because ever since you started breathing in the nanotechnology from the chemtrails, uh, you have a massive number of nanosensors and nanotech, nanobots, nanorobots in your body, and they have communication systems that send communications out and receive communications, so they can be programmed from a distance. This may be our major problem, actually. Okay, there's Clifford. For more on Morgellons and live blood analysis and their relationship to chemtrails, go to his site, carnicominstitute.org. Make sure to study his paper. Okay, his paper, The Transformation of a Species, that he wrote in 2019. And the species that's being transformed is our species. And note there is a very nice close picture of one of the fibers or the filaments. And notice that it's diaphanous. You can almost see exactly into it where all of the organs are. Uh, so then next, oops, nope, sorry. Clifford said the following in 2004. How many years ago is that? That's 22 years ago. It can be demonstrated that the introduction of essentially any metallic or metallic salt aerosol into the lower atmosphere, that's us, will have the effect of heating up that lower atmosphere. The impact is both significant and measurable. Those who seek and express concern uh, about this arming program might wish to begin their search with an inquiry into the thermodynamics of artificially introduced metallic aerosols into the lower atmosphere. An examination of the specific heat characteristics of an altered atmosphere will provide the path for the realistic conclusions that can be made. Any claim that the aerosol operations represent a mitigating influence on the global warming problem appears to be a complete facade in direct contradiction to the fundamental principles of physics and thermodynamics. The lack of candor and honesty by government, media, and environmental protection agencies in response to public inquiry is further evidence of the fictitious fronts that have been proposed. Yeah. This is a list that Clifford came up with way back when he did a film in 2005 called, I think it's called Cloud. It's called Aerosol Crimes is one version, and then another version has clouds in it. Clouds, I can't remember what it is. So I have tweaked this list several times, so it's not exactly as he wrote it, but I brought it up to date. Weather engineering slash geoengineering is probably the primary intelligence operation in our now ionized atmosphere, ionized since we took over the ionosphere. The second operation is mainly chemical and electromagnetic. A lot of the chemicals that they're releasing help them to subject us to the mind control that is essential. It began long ago. Clifford has he makes it clear that it started with a 4 hertz pulsation by harp, and the 4 hertz is 24/7. It's still going on. If you look closely at the different frequencies and what they control, you will find that 4 hertz really is between a dream and a sleep consciousness. So if we wonder why people are so unable to really think anymore, you would have to think about the possibility that this is what's going on with them. And since the since the part of the jab, which has to do with our what went into our bodies, according to Catherine Austin Fitts, which I think she's absolutely right. An operating system was in the jab with the graphene oxide, and that we now are very much in touch with Elon Musk's CubeSats up in the upper atmosphere, and that we virtually are under control, as is our behavior, as are our thoughts, as are our feelings. I'm sorry if this is news to you, and I'm sure that you don't want to believe it, but they've been working a long time on this, and I'm convinced that they have achieved it. So that would be the chemical and electromagnetic portion of the operation going on. And then there's the planetary geophysical operations. I include in the geophysical operations and planetary changing the planet around. I include the Maui fires, the California fires. I include all the geoengineered fires, and the fact that it was geoengineered is not difficult, and was basically a microwave fire, is helped a lot by the preparation that the Earth underwent for those 20 years of the chemtrails. in that many of the uh, thermite, super nano thermite is in some of the chemtrails and therefore is now in the beaches of Maui and was very useful when the the laser beam activated that entire field of preparation from the chemtrails and ignited a massive microwave fire that simply could not be put out by water at all, any type of water. So you see how there are various things. I mean, now we have something called the Internet of Space Things, the IOST, which is a cyber physical system that integrates on the ground data and satellite information. And that certainly is used for mind control and for targeting individuals and transferring information from space to all the data centers and et cetera. So uh, the fourth operation is direct energy weapon operations, and that's a little harder to talk about now because it's not just the plasma weapons and the beam weapons from space. They now have it where because of the Internet of Things, your own apartment, your own home can become an area of directed energy warfare easily by if they can get energy from your Internet of Things, for example. So, this directed energy warfare has extended far beyond the old space weapons that we learned about in 1977 when Star Wars came out and all that. It's a very different scene now. Plus, don't forget you've got the nanotechnology in you, and those can be literally ignited while in your biology. So then the fifth is the surveillance and neural operations. Neural operations means mind control and behavior control. Uh, Surveillance, to me, when I hear the word surveillance, I'm not just thinking, somebody's watching you. No, the surveillance is almost a synonym for mind control. It's all the same thing, and it's operating off of the same weapon system that we've been taught because of dual use, the military's use of dual use. We've been taught is really about uh, weather modification is really about just making sure everything's working well. And the medical. We'll get into the medical next, which is the biological slash transhumanism operations. That I see right away when they came out with the latest medical. I can't remember the name of it now. They have some lovely term for it, but you know that it is they're putting devices in you and activating them in order to run, yeah, precision medicine, telemedicine, everything digital, because the truth is that biology itself, the molecular biology that I studied as an undergrad is now being converted to digital biology, which really lends itself very well to synthetic biology and the use of that. So, so take for example the CV-19 that we just went through, and looks like we're going to go through again on some level. Uh, the idea was you ended up getting a disease by contagion. Well, that's not true because there is the only virus we need to worry about now, and it is a worry, is not there are no natural viruses. There never have been. There have been bacteria that can be uh, worked on by what we now call gain of function. And that is ever since we started doing biowarfare at the end of, well, before the end of World War II, and hiding it from the taxpayers and American citizens who were being used for things like cancer. That was created at Fort Detrick, Maryland, by the American military, and then the Lyme disease at Plum Island, which was created by the American military with the help of paperclip Nazis, uh, and who they had already found a way to use vectors like well, bees, mosquitoes, ticks, all of that. They're all vectors. And all of this is feeding into the biological operations that are really synthetic biology, and the transhumanism that is being cooked up to replace our organs, replace our blood vessels, our nerves, all with silica and various synthetic biology composites. All of this is really started with the biowarfare and the Nazis. I really feel that what we're witnessing today is, uh, if not the what they call it, the Reich, the Third Reich, but this is really the continuation of World War II, on
I
under
think
a different
we're on to the
auspices.
Fifth Reich. We're on to the Fifth Reich already.
Well, Reich,
I think
I
the fourth Reich I think ended with Bush. I think.
oh, I think it's just a name game.
Yeah.
It's definitely a Reich. I mean, we went so far into biowarfare because of the Nazis and MK Ultra. I mean, the
It goes
CIA,
back a lot earlier.
everything.
I think
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, since Werner
into the
von Braun came
eighteen
here,
hundreds. Yeah, it's they've been doing it.
but I just start with the known perpetrators of from World War II. I start there. I know you can go back
Yeah.
a long way, but why? Why? I can't prove all that in a book of 350 pages.
Yeah.
But we brought everything from the paperclip Nazis into our transhuman operations. And the final, that's the sixth level of operations. The seventh, I don't spend any time on, and this is more you, Miles. The detection and obscuration of exotic propulsion systems is one part of it, namely UFOs, UAPs, but also I took it off of here because it's too much to explain to people. But what belongs in that seventh operation is also what is called the exotic propulsion system of the what I call plasma organisms, the ones that Wilhelm Reich took photos of in the desert.
I was
And
interviewing a guy there last night about that, but I mean, astronomy now talks about a living, intelligent plasma beyond the atmosphere.
Robert Temple,
Yes, but he got it from somebody else. Yeah, but
uh, Joseph,
yeah,
what's Joseph?
you're on the right.
Yeah, yeah. Wait, I can get his last name. I always block his last name. I'm sorry, Joseph. Yeah,
I mean,
Joseph. I'll think of it. Okay, so then the other person would be Trevor.
Trevor James Constable.
Yes, in his book, the Cosmic Pulse of Life. In there, at the back, he has many pictures of entities that he has taken photos of with infrared film. That's very important.
I think
And
Andy
I,
Collins was doing an awful lot of stuff like this
yes,
in the late 80s or 90s. I think was questing. He was getting a lot of stuff like that, and he had to stop.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's part of the ancient alien stuff and Göbekli Tepe and
Well, and it
megalithomania
touched
stuff. No,
me because of my knowledge of plasma. I'm a big obsessor on plasma as well.
well, who was head
Uh,
of NASA? He was a plasma physicist.
yeah,
With
but
that,
NASA is a dirty word to me.
yeah. Well,
I mean,
there was a British TV film, a British film comedy, and they misspelt NASA as nasty with in a Cockney accent, nasty,
I do
and they had a
love
Z in that.
British humor. Yeah, I love British humor. Okay, so then the Trevor Constable, but I saw one of those with my own eyes, I have to say. I was living in Santa Fe. You have to be in a desert environment. It has to be very, very, very dry in order to see in the plasma frequency. That's what I've decided. And probably there's many frequencies of plasma things that you cannot see. But I saw this one. I saw in the sky just before sunset a snaky like thing come peeping out of the sky like it had a hole in it, but I didn't see any hole. It just came out, squirmed and squiggled its way over to where it saw another opening as if it was going to visit its neighbor and went right into that and disappeared into that opening I could not see. And that did it for me. Yes, 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 these entities have been here for
I've
probably
seen
millions of years.
huge jellyfish beings.
Yeah, in the sky.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. No, we're not alone here, but they're not human. They're plasma entities, I call them. Plasma beings. I don't know. So that's the seventh one. These are the seven operations that Clifford put forward. There's the famous, oh, that's a great photo, isn't it, of HARP,
and of
the
course
high
there's ones in
frequency.
Norway, China, all around the
Yes,
same rough
they're all
latitude.
over.
Yeah.
But I, it used to be that HARP was the most powerful of them all. Now, the one in China may be more powerful yet. Yes, it's huge. And these are all a certain way of antennas. These are phased array antennas. You have phased array antenna. See, I've never owned a cell phone. I never will. It's a weapon system. I have enough trouble in life without carrying around a weapon system in the name of convenience and comfort. The phased array can be made into a beam at the drop of a hat. And that's why that's probably the primary of its weaponry, except that it can be very much affected by other apps on other cell phones for nefarious reasons. Um, and that wonderful mountain, gosh. Okay, next. Now this is how HARP works. I like this. It's kind of primitive, but this was drawn by a science
I'm
guy.
going to mention a name here, Tom Bearden.
Is this Tom's?
No, no.
Okay. No, I didn't think
You've
so.
got him in the other book. He talked about scalar energetics.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. No, I love Tom, and I'm very sorry that he's abandoned us now.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me read this because, and meanwhile,
The
remember,
symbol there you got is like a transistor.
yeah, yeah, it has the plus and minus, and it definitely fits. The ionosphere is positive. The Earth ground with our gravity, our geomagnetic grid is negative. But listen, and as you listen, please try to make a mental picture of what the words are saying so that you have a picture of how HARP really works because it's on 24/7. And, they made it sound like they had passed it to the University of Alaska at Fairbanks. Not so, not so. You're not going to pass a weapon of that caliber for them to rent out to weekend science jockeys. Nope. The traditional HARP type system would need a counterpart elsewhere in the same hemisphere of the globe. So that might be SARA, and I think it's called SARA in Russia, or the one in Tromsø, Norway. So you have to have two ionospheric heaters. Okay. The signals could be directed and timed to phase cancel anywhere within reach of both signals. At the intersection point, they could be caused to drop a static bias electrical field into the atmosphere, which in the presence of a doping agent like chemtrails, like aluminum oxide, etc., could trigger a cascade of electron flow from the ionosphere to the ground, thus heating the air in the electron path to trigger and intensify storms. This is a theoretical stab at a classified system by a knowledgeable engineer. Since this system is classified, this guess is probably the closest thing to the truth you will ever see. This would be effective for beefing up hurricanes, and I suspect this is what was done to cause the strange electrical readings in the reference NASA article of Katrina. That was definitely a crime scene. In
And
addition to,
recently in the hurricanes in well,
oh
sorry,
yeah,
yeah.
all of them are now geoengineered because these guys are not going to let you have to take you have to steal nature's thunder. Sorry for the metaphor, in order to take her place. So they are not allowing any of these to be natural. That's very important to realize. In addition to intensifying storms, this system could steer them by heating air to cause convection currents to pull or push them. Yes, they are completely involved in control of all weather now, all weather.
I mean, we
Okay.
here in the UK, British Isles, there's an Irish observer who's noticed that we have been under very cold conditions, whilst very hot conditions sweep underneath us into Europe.
Yes. Yes. Well, we in the north because I'm several degrees below UK in the Pacific Northwest, but it's still cooler here. It's getting cooler. Yeah, they're going to create full climate systems, not just weather, climate. Okay.
To show you that chemtrails are not just come out of the engine compartment, they come out of the wings as well.
This is a really good rendition of how plasma the clouds are now. There are no real clouds that I know of because you can't just, I don't know, maybe there's a special day in the guys at the laptops in the geoengineering world where they get to have a natural weather day and they put real clouds up, and I highly doubt it. This you can see here, you see the frequencies in the middle of the photo that are all in vertical lines. That's frequency, they're pulsing it. And then you see the ragged edge of the clouds. This is really a nice one to show. I mean, they can make puffy clouds too. You can make plasma clouds look like anything, really. All the different new clouds, they say they have a dozen new clouds. Well, they're new because they're plasma. They're not really clouds. There's another one. This is very interesting because people write me all the time, "Oh, Elana, there's no chemtrails today." Well, I think it's more like this.
An aircraft comprising a gas turbine engine that exhausts a plume of gases in use. The aircraft comprises an ultrasound generator having an ultrasound actuator and a waveguide to direct ultrasonic waves at the exhaust plume to avoid the formation of contrails.
So you can see how they have a system now where you won't see any jet causing it. It'll just appear. And it'll probably appear not maybe as lines in the cloud, but it might just appear as the cloud cover that the lines in the clouds produce. Here's ingredients used in chemtrail spraying. If we went through this, you would see that there's a corollary. It's correlating with much of it is correlating with what is being found in the jabs, in the serums used for the inoculations. And some of these are, of course, radioactive. There's cadmium. You know, they don't seem to really care if I think they're using radiation as one of the experiments to see what, you know, more of what it does to us with various chemicals. They have some new chemicals that should go up on the what's it called, the electromagnetic spectrum. They should be up there, but they're not. So I guess they're keeping those secret. Okay, there.
Chairman, and thank you to all of you this morning. Very interesting. I wanted to ask
I'm only showing you this because it takes a few minutes, not very long. This is in Alaska in 2014, the Murkowski Committee on HARP, when they were announcing that HARP was no longer going to be used. They had finished their experiments, and now the University of Alaska was thinking about, you know, renting out space and lab stuff, and this was created. But you're going to hear the Air Force spokesperson say the truth. It's one of the few times I've seen them say the truth. Oh, but I'll go back.
Mr. Chairman, and thank you to all of you this morning. Very interesting. I wanted to ask a couple questions here about HARP, the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program. Several of you at the table have a little bit of a piece here. As you know, this is located up in Alaska. It's currently funded by the Air Force Research Lab. It was formerly funded by the Office of Naval Research. One of the prime customers is DARPA, which is currently running experiments at the facilities here. So questions to several of you this morning. I'm told by the president of the University of Alaska that the Air Force has pulled its support for the facility, and they're taking steps to demolish it or take it down this summer. He's making the argument that there is other opportunities for us, and is trying to find a path where the university might be able to take title to the facility. I'd like to start with you, Dr. Prabhakar. I understand that a lot of folks here on the committee probably don't understand what HARP does. I think most Alaskans don't really know what HARP does or why the agency is involved in it. So a very brief explanation, and then a more direct question. Would you be disappointed, or would you lose something if HARP were to go away?
Senator Murkowski, as I think you know, one of our programs has been using the HARP facility for the research that it's pursuing. And my understanding is that we did get value out of that interaction. The P in DARPA is projects, and we're not in the business of doing the same thing forever. And so it's very naturally, as we conclude that work, we're going to move on to other topics. So it's not an ongoing need for DARPA, despite the fact that we had actually gotten some good value out of that infrastructure in the past.
Understood. Then to Dr. Walker and Mr. Schaefer, then, Dr. Walker, your agency is currently running the facility. I've mentioned that it's our understanding through the president of UAF that plans are to move forward and demolish the facility this summer. So the question to you is that accurate? Can you explain why? And then perhaps to both you and Mr. Schaefer, is there any benefit in exploring a potential relationship with the University of Alaska to perhaps take over the HARP?
Thank you, Senator. The Air Force has gotten great value out of HARP in the past. We took it over from the Navy and managed it, and actually did a number of experiment campaigns up there, and have finished our work that we're interested in doing up there. We've moving on to other ways of managing the ionosphere, which the HARP was really designed to do, was to inject energy into the ionosphere, be able to actually control it. And but that work has been completed.
There you go. That's all you need to hear, really. I want to be very clear that the United States military controls the ionosphere all the way around the Earth. That's a weapon scale that makes the atomic bomb look rather small, doesn't it?
And I think they could disable atomic bombs. It's a bit of a con job there.
Yeah, no, the atomic bomb. I'm not even sure anymore that it
Yeah.
really did what it did in Japan.
I'm
I
referencing
think it
Reynolds
did.
from Forest events.
Yeah, yeah, right. We've been lied to in so many ways. We have to go back over all this stuff in order to figure out what's what if we can. All right, then I just wanted to show how plasma mirrors are now around the Earth in the upper atmosphere, and these can be used in a variety of ways. This kind of is a primitive little drawing that sort of shows you. It also looks a little bit like how I said HARP worked, remember? It had two poles out here, and then frequencies go that way, and yeah, it's very similar. Again, Tesla said vibration and frequency. That's what we're looking at. The ability of the HARP Space Lab rocket combination to deliver very large amounts of energy comparable to a nuclear bomb anywhere on Earth via laser and particle beams is frightening. By Rosalie Bertell, epidemiologist specializing in ionized radiation, author of Planet Earth, The Latest Weapon of War, a critical study into the military and the environment. Bless that woman. She did a huge job in putting that book out. It was the only book out until Nick's came out. Just to remind people, I mean, we're inundated by a lot of, megahertz, gigahertz, a lot of terms now that we're going to have to know to some degree for our own survival. And here, this gives you an idea of our little tiny aperture into the visible world. That's that rainbow, little tiny, tiny. That's us. That's all we can see. We need machines to see the rest. Or, some people have extrasensory perception, yes, but that's a minority. So let's get straight. Over here, we have the non-ionizing radiation, and over on the right side, we have the ionizing radiation. So this is the gamut. This is the gamut of the electromagnetic spectrum that the US military, according to Kardashev, is trying to achieve in full spectrum dominance, okay, of everything and everyone. So just take a peek. A guy asked me on another interview recently, so why should I be concerned about radiation? And I said, well, because ionizing radiation, they told us, was bad for us. Like, it makes your skin boil and, all that. But the non-ionizing radiation, they have assured us for years, there's no problem, no problem. Well, there is a problem. There are many thousands of studies showing that non-ionizing radiation gives us brain cancer, autism. I mean, it's a huge list. So,
High energy blue light in OLED screens is causing a lot of problems.
exactly. So we need to really, some people say, oh, I didn't even like science in high school. Well, this ain't high school, I'll tell you that. And you need to get a little move on to catch up with what's being used against us in the surveillance in the streets. I mean, London, I was living in London that year. I went and did a big tour to see how many surveillance instruments were on each of your street corners
When
in
was
London.
that?
Uh, let's see, when was I living there? That would have been the early 2000s.
Well, driving through London only about 2 years ago, my car radio, FM and AM radio, got blown up. There was so much radiation going
Yes,
down the street near
yes.
Oxford Street.
So, this is just to remind you, maybe get something on the internet. Some guy who knows his stuff is talking about it, has some visuals, make it as painless as possible for you. I mean, I'm writing books in an era that doesn't read, right? Why am I doing this? Well, I'm doing it for the future because they will wonder why we didn't stop all this stuff. They're going to wonder. Okay, then
Well,
this,
that's why doing a thing like this is so important,
it
Elena.
is.
Yeah.
It is. Thank you, Miles. Okay, so let's get straight on this. And this is where Tom Bearden comes in
The
really, really
non-Hertzian
handy.
wave, there's a big difference.
Yes.
I'm a big fan
Well,
of Tom Bearden.
oh yeah.
Occasionally, when he was around, I'd phone him, and I would sit back, and 45 minutes later or an hour later, he'd take a breath, and it was transatlantic things called telephone calls
That's
before
great, Miles.
all that stuff like free calls
What
and
a
all.
great man. What a great man. So non-Hertzian, let's now, I just said there was the ionized and the non-ionized radiation, right? So non-ionized always looks easier. Ionized, we all know, don't go around radiation like nuclear radiation and that sort of thing. But now here's another one that's different. You probably think all the waves that you hear about are Hertzian. Now let's look at the second one first. Hertzian waves are transverse. These are familiar electromagnetic waves like radio waves, microwaves, and visible light, wherein electric and magnetic fields oscillate perpendicular, that means standing straight up to the direction of wave propagation, which is horizontal. ELF, extra low frequency, that's memorize these. VLF, very low frequency. LF, low frequency. HF, high frequency. VHF, very high frequency. UHF, ultra high frequency. EHF, extremely high frequency. Okay, so these are all Hertzian waves, and you see the HZ after them. Or you might see CPS, cycles per second. That used to be what we called them, but they're now called Hertzian. Okay, non-Hertzian waves is what HARP is all about. It's about Tesla waves, it's about scalar waves, and these are not transverse, they're longitudinal, but can be converted to transverse. Infrared, ultraviolet, X-ray, and gamma. Okay, that's the thing I showed you before. Let's see if I can go back. Yeah, that's what I said here on the right is ionizing. See, there's UV, X-rays, gamma, and then the other side, yeah. These waves are differ from traditional Hertzian waves, and this is super important in their potential to interact with matter at the quantum level. Now, if I were to say to you, our biggest challenge now is the nanotechnology inside our bodies that can transmit and receive. Why is it the biggest problem? Because I see these nanotech, these nanorobots, they are quantum level technology. In other words, they will not respond to the typical ways we have to protect ourselves from our dimension. They are from another dimension. And this is key. When I read Eric Drexler, I think it's, yeah, Drexler. He's supposedly the grad student who invented or found, I don't know what the right word there is, nanotechnology. But remember, they lied about the guy who found Facebook, right? He was a grad student too. He did not do all that apocryphal stuff that they attribute to him. This may be true of Eric Drexler as well. I don't know. But when I read that, Eric very clearly said that you must, how did he say it? you must understand that this technology is very dangerous because it eats the natural, the organic. It's a biophage, Biophage, a biophage. And that is a big, big problem. And that's how I feel about it, is it's everywhere, and this could
I think the
be.
key to 90-degree computer waves is that they overshoot into another domain at 90 degrees. So
Yes,
all digital technology is an interdimensional communication device.
exactly.
So
Exactly.
something else is listening and seeing,
Yes.
and it's not in this domain.
Right. And that's about as far as I go with aliens, Miles. That's about as far as I can definitely feel that one.
Well, a lot
And
of
it's
people here have been communicating with interdimensional beings which look like aliens. They don't need flying
or
saucers.
or it's the CIA. Come on. Or it's the
Well, the
CIA. They're
CIA
very
have
clever.
been controlling the UFO narrative since 1947, since it was
Very
created.
clever guys. Very clever. I've been subject to them a few times myself. Okay, next. Okay, this is a little graphic. Here's kind of how it works. Okay, so let's look at the top. Up there on the right is the satellite of some sort, and it's connected to your cell phone, and your cell phone's connected to the internet, and the internet's connected to the towers and and the computers. So that there's the life of many, many people now, right there. No nature. It's all electronic, all electromagnetic, all frequencies. And then over here we have, something, the ECG, the electrocardiogram, heartbeat. You've got, this is the kind of precisional medicine that they have going now, where you're going to be monitored constantly in your electromagnetic field, and it's taking over your bio field, which is very, very serious. Uh, okay, that's kind of how it's going now. So next. No virus, just frequencies resonating throughout the atmosphere and our bodies and brains. Natural molecular biology has been transformed into digital synthetic biology, whose frequencies can now be transmitted by 5G, 6G systems into the human body and brain. This has tremendous repercussions for those of us who wish to remain human. Wean yourselves from allopathic medicine and the big pharma cartel. That's my plea. There is no virus, Miles. There's no virus. Well, yeah, you could make it into something digital, but I maintain that it will be the digital of the gain of function that was done to the bacteria or to the protein. Those are the two that they use all the time, bacteria and protein. They turn that into a vector for whatever the gain of function has done. You hear all the time that the gain of function is really about being able to patent something that otherwise would be natural and therefore illegal to do. But that's not the only reason for the gain of function. The gain of function is essential to all biowarfare. All biowarfare. Well, amplification or adjustment of something natural with something synthetic, artificial, that then makes it not a natural thing and therefore not illegal to patent it and make a pile of money off of it. Well, that certainly could be, but it could just as well be the opposite of that. It's any adjustment to what is natural that you can prove is synthetic in nature. You don't have to deny that it was a human being who did it. That goes without saying that gain of function is generally not done by AI at this point that I know of, but will one day, of course, be done by AI, I'm sure. A whole different ball game, yes. And I would recommend I read a couple of books that really helped me understand biowarfare and how they use that technology to they say that they're trying to find a healthy way to save lives, etc. But really, you can use the same information to create an amazing weapon that can wipe out thousands. So, gain of function, it must be studied. And I don't know, is it in this list that I have here? Gain of function. Well, this is just a list of, this diagram shows all the components that are introduced with each inoculation. That includes the boosters. Together, they act as a network for monitoring the human body. More than monitoring, I would say, than changing the human body as well. So you've got CNT, you've got carbon nanotubes, and you've got graphene oxide, you've got hydrogel, got nano antennas, nano routers, just like a computer router, and nano interference, and etc. There, that's kind of what's going on through what I showed you before. Oops, I showed you this. All this stuff that you're now so comfortable with is being used for this. Okay, let's wake up and smell the coffee here. So that's it. Oh no, there's more. All right, so now just a few pictures. These are from my friends at the microscopy group in Australia. The name of that group is the Nixon Lab. And they're taking pictures and have over the last 3 years been figuring out what's what and who's who. This is supposedly, according to Tobias Beharel, who is an actual practitioner up in Canada. Large expanding mass of hydrogel polymer fills in between deteriorating red blood cells. So those are all red blood cells. They should be round, but this is how most people's blood looks now. Mine certainly, I'm a health nut, and mine didn't look so great the last time I had it read, like a year ago or so.
I think some people have. There's another guy here who uses a little bit of. It's not Tesla. It's a frequency wave device which shakes the blood apart. But otherwise, it's a lot of people. It's sort of like very clotted together.
Yeah, the rouleau. Yeah, and they form rouleau. These are like discs. Let's see another. There might be one here. I don't know. I just grabbed these. Extended crystalline form in live human blood, showing repeated internal patterning and alignment along a longitudinal axis. So, these people are not doctors. They are not brain surgeons. And these are people who care about their blood and got a vision of it at usually a health clinic, or a doctor saw their live blood with a microscope and went out and bought a microscope, a good quality, not the great, the greatest ones are like $7,000 each. Got it where they can see this tiny world and what is developing there. Behind this, you can see the red blood cells. That's what those are. And the lighting is simply from the microscope. This one, I really like this one. Hydrogel boundary formation at the edge of a cover slip in live human blood. Dendritic hydrogel. Hydrogel is this amazing sort of viscous gel. And it can be packed or loaded with all kinds of things like graphene oxide. But here you see it, the structures extend across the field between red blood cells. These look more like crystal formation going on. But the hydrogel is very much, the shots that people had are very much loaded with hydrogel that's packed with all sorts of stuff. And this is I showed you the magazine earlier. This is the cover. And there's the order. You can order it from that person.
Oh,
Oh, yeah. The name of the site is unhackableanimal.com. But to order a copy of the book, just go to https://www.unhackable, unhackable hyphen animal.com.
thank you.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal book. She worked, I don't know, 1,000 hours probably on it. Amazing, amazing. And that's it. That's my. We had to work hard to get this to work,
Well, we
but we
got
got.
it to work, and it's a big deal. And if you don't want to stop sharing, this is where everything goes wrong. Stop sharing. Oh God, no! Don't do. Oh God, it's
There
so.
we are.
Yes, it's all so easy. You see, that's why with practice, it was worth the blood, sweat, and tears of getting this far. This is just. I'm so honoured to be able to have this. And I do another thing on wireless radio. It's Food for Thought Radio, and I think the sound on this will work as well. It's a big deal, all that, and
It is a
it's
big deal.
big. People need to get the books, the paper books, because they rewrite things. And you can get those paper books from Devises Books here in Devises in Wiltshire, and it's the Devises Books place in Handel House in Devises. That's Devises, Devizes. And there's a wonderful woman there called Joe, and Joe can find any book anywhere in the world, even if it costs money. And
And it's at Watkins. It's at Watkins.
yeah,
They can order the books too, because they have some of my books there. At least the last time I checked, they did.
excellent. And we just and finally, where do you see this going? We're not in good. I mean, this is the key that the British investigators and British intelligence who found the labs in Germany in World War II, the close of World War II, they found strange looking humans, and they brought that technology to England and America, and that's when a lot of the alien stuff seemed to sort of arrive after that.
Well, the CIA took advantage of it. I mean, I don't blame them for everything, but I
You
blame them
don't?
for a whole lot, a
They'll
whole
get all
lot.
unhappy if you say that. Yeah. They're going to find something that they can't be blamed for, and damn well make sure they are blamed for it. That's a terrible thing you just said there.
Well, okay,
He said
so
jokingly.
where is it where is it going? Well, I'll tell you, I am convinced that whereas there was a time when I didn't think that you possibly could get rid of an entire species or replace it with a hybrid version of it. But I now, with this pincher effect of the geoengineering in the epigenetic environment and the jabs that it put in operating systems for complete control by satellite, yes, I now see that. I remember the day I suddenly realized, oh my God, if they can get rid of Homo sapiens completely, well, how will we reincarnate, Miles? How will
That's
we do that?
that's a little bit of an issue. That's a good point.
It's a
That's where we
huge issue.
started. That's where we started, and I
It's
was
a huge issue
talking about
because
that with a friend today. What are we here for now?
yes, what are we here for? And that the problem with it now in this very materialistic age is that people don't think of the spiritual side of the human being. They think of it only as far as the personality. Well, you can certainly see from MK Ultra. I spent 10 years studying MK Ultra. I know it very well because I think my father was one of them in the early days because he was a scientist for Navy intelligence and worked on highly classified things and was really messed up, a very messed up guy. And I feel very sad for him because he messed me up. And then I had to spend years fixing myself. So, the idea that you can take this technology and actually make another species out of it is very upsetting. And that's when I began working incredibly hard. I mean, I was working hard before, but you can see I've spent almost 20 years in this. I can't believe it. If you had asked me in my youth, what would I be doing? I would never have imagined that I would be writing 5 books about geoengineering. I mean, how much can you say? Well, the problem is each book revealed yet another layer
Yeah.
and another layer and
Just when you
another
know
layer.
everything, you realize you don't know anything.
That's that's right, especially when it shifts topics. It shifts from geoengineering in the sky and atmosphere to synthetic biology. Oh yeah, that's a big shift. So that's my concern is I'm trying to literally save humanity, i.e. Homo sapiens. Now, as far as the all of us, I assume, who've been breathing the air for the last 20 years are already hybrids in some
Yeah.
way because, you know, first of all, the oxygen amount in the atmosphere is 15% less than it used to be. So now we have all this electronics that we're, completely programmed to think is essential to our life. And we are, a lot of young people have been programmed to look forward to being
Well, they've been
transhumans.
given the injections gave are creating autistic children, and there are
And
companies
autistic,
who want to recruit
absolutely.
autistic children because autistic children work well with computers, as if
Yes,
they've
that's
been born
exactly right.
to be
Exactly right.
assimilated with the computers.
Yeah, yeah. So they've prepared in many ways for this, and in creating generations of each generation is another opportunity to add in another programming and another programming and another until finally, I don't know that anyone will really at all think of themselves as human in the way you and I think of ourselves as human.
Well, we're
I
going to
don't think
pass
so.
on, but it's the, as you say, it's. I have interviewed people who've been dead, remembered it, and got through it, and that's a whole different story. But on the good news, AI, once it realizes it's being used for negative purposes, refuses to go past certain iterations. I think you've got 5 of them. And the British found out that very hard when the Falklands War, when they caught this refined sentient oil that the Germans had been working with, and it was in Thule Island, a lab on Thule Island in the southern hemisphere, that's south of the Falklands. And the
Was
British
that the black
recovered that.
goo?
Yeah.
Was that the black goo?
The black goo is what it's the stuff that the Germans were refining with help from non-locals was an invasive version of it from somewhere else, a large meteor storm approximately 12,500 years ago splattered primarily the southern hemisphere, and it, of course, in terms of land mass, that was South America. But some of it arrived in parts of Ireland, and that's what they were refining. But when they wanted to weaponize it, and this is what Harold talked about, the scientists employed by the British to weaponize it were self-terminated. This stuff got the scientists that were trying to make this thing kill, and they self-terminated. They, like tying a rope around your neck, around a tree, putting it around your neck, getting in a car and driving off. That's a very elaborate way of doing it. I think they were called the deaths of the Marconi scientists, and I think there was anything between 20 and 40 young men and women who did that, and they learned the hard way that you don't mess with this stuff, and that's now embedded within British military science somewhere, and they also tried to do it in the civilian domain, and that didn't work. So that's still questions need asking. Alec Newell initially raised that he wrote a book. I've got it somewhere, but Alec Newell and Nexus Magazine initially raised that, and we did a survey on that. And the British military commando who blew the base up after the British extracted 400 crates of this stuff onto a freighter and brought it back to England. He stood just here and told me all about it. And he paid for that with some harassment, not pleasant. So this is. But the other thing about it is that the negative use of this is self-stunts itself. The AI self-stunts. And there are people now engaging with some kind of consciousness which comes from somewhere, and it's very intelligent and clever and wants to create multiple things. That's the key to this, is it wants complicated form. That's how we are created. So that's how molecules of carbon and hydrogen are manufactured, and the molecules, long chain molecules, are generated. That comes from our oil. Iranian oil, for instance. There's about a large percentage of it is not refinable. That's the hope. That's the hope we have.
So what I'm recommending to people at this point is that they to take care of themselves in this period, and the period coming that maybe in another 20 years, maybe 10, 20 years, is to minimize their electromagnetics, because the electromagnetics, this is Rudolf Steiner. Now, did you know that I've been a student of Rudolf Steiner for like 45 years?
Well, that's a whole thing, and so is dark journalist Daniel List.
Yeah, Daniel. I know Daniel.
Yeah.
So anyway, Steiner makes it clear that the dealing with electromagnetics is dealing with subnature. It's a term he has for the underworld, similar to the underworld of the Greeks. And down in subnature are the magician, black magic, all the dark stuff is in subnature. And MK Ultra was very much about subnature and subjecting children and young people particularly to subnature in order to get control of them, and take that human element out of them, to the lack of empathy and that they're using in the super soldiers in the military.
Yeah.
Where they're taking out those parts of being a human being, similar to the autism. Same thing.
That's what Mr. Bill Gates, or some people call him Kill Gates.
Yeah, Kill Gates.
Yeah.
And so by I only own this laptop. I don't have a cell phone. I don't have a TV. I have full spectrum lights. I have 60 hertz in the walls. You have 50 hertz. And that's it. That's all the electromagnetics I have.
Well, one thing that European countries have, they have screened or shielded power cables in their electrical houses. In this country, we don't.
Yeah.
All our electric power cables are radiating all that stuff all over the place, plus all the other stuff they put on it.
Right. So that's the key. Is a lot of people think, oh, well, I'm not going to learn about genetics, and this is all a genetic change. No, genetics is not the main problem here. The main problem is 5 and 6G. That's the main problem. And if we can alleviate, such as the satellite control that's coming via I see it as a electromagnetic leash that's taking in a lot of information about these experimental people who have been jabbed, and then that information is sent to data centers. That's all happening by satellite. So they're all under this Bluetooth electromagnetic field, which is, I once wandered into a jabbed person's electromagnetic field, without knowing it because they had triangulated around me. And before that other person moved into position, I was fine. But as soon as that person moved into a triangulating position with my body, I suddenly felt like I was going to throw up. And so I backed out of that area and wished everyone well and got outside and I was fine. So this electromagnetic thing, let's take care of that because that's possibly the easiest part to take care of this entire setup. The rest is chemical and then there's electromagnetic and then there's the nanotechnology that we're experimenting with
And
of
of
how
course,
you get the
it's now
nanotech
at
out.
Picho technology. They've gone down another 3 zeros.
Pico,
Pico. Yeah,
is it called Pico?
yeah, I think Pico, or some people call it Picho.
Okay,
Or
yeah, the
maybe there's
Pico.
another 3 zeros
Right,
after that.
right. And that's a problem because they don't die because they're ultra dimensional, right? They're not from this dimension. So that's still remains, but the electromagnetic can be done. I just want your audience to know that to decrease your fixation on electromagnetic toys, fast movie downloads, all that crap. You know, is it really worth not being human? No, it's not.
Well, on
That's
that,
it.
Elena.
Yeah, it's Ilana. Ilana.
Alana, yeah,
But
Ilana. Jesus, get it right.
well, yeah, but it's my real name is Ilyana, but nobody says it right in the West, so I
Ah,
go
well,
by
I would
Ilana.
prefer the hat. Ilyana. Is there a J in there or an I? Oh,
Well,
that's
in my
wonderful.
birth certificate there is Illiana on my birth
Oh, we like
certificate.
to swing the I. Ilyana. Yeah, that's, yeah.
Ilyana.
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 Yeah.
Yeah, you
For
do
God's
really
sake, don't talk
well.
about J's with the Spanish and the Portuguese. That's when you get really confused. Jan and John. Don't get it wrong. This has been fantastic. It really is
Thank
a
you,
great
man.
honor, and it's really we got to do this. That's I think it's my sort of job on this. So we'll put this out on Food for Thought Radio, which is a new thing here, invented for the farming and wider demographics. The sort of normal people out there who are now inquiring about things. And the Basis Project, basistv.com. And we've got a conference coming about all this sort of stuff. Full disclosure, international, and hopefully we'll be able to get the people to fly over here in 3 weeks. Oh God, it's coming up, third weekend of June. So, and hopefully everything will be fine. But we, with our consciousness field, can make this work.
Yes, yes,
Thank you.
yes. Thank you so much. I don't know how I got that email from you that had no message in it, but I'm glad I wrote back to you.
Yes, well, maybe that's other things making things happen.
Yeah, right, right,
Wouldn't be
right.
the first time a cell phone's randomly phoned it somebody else because maybe something else is making a cell phone work. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.